Hi there everyone, it's Babs here and it is Friday. We're not in the middle of a challenge, which means it's back to our regularly scheduled programming of a live stream on Friday to answer the questions, queries and quandaries that you have posted up in the Facebook group for Yarn Academy on a Tuesday, or indeed on a Wednesday with our Hump Day post as well. Now, the theme that appeared to be coming out of the responses that we had seemed to be around a lack of oomph, a lack of inspiration, or generally how to deal with people who are being very aggressive and unnecessarily rude. So I'm just going to check that the live stream is running, which means that I'll be able to see if there are any questions that people are posting. Because I can't ever see any comments or questions on my phone, but I can see them on the laptop. So one moment while I just check that out. Haha, there we go. It's running in the background, so that's fine. Hi there, Leslie. So yes, I'm hoping that with a little bit of festive sparkle that might brighten the atmosphere slightly. So I am currently sitting on the floor next to my Christmas tree. The kids and Rob set this up last night whilst I was completing what felt like a gazillion videos for a client. One of the services that I offer outside of Yarn Academy is tutorial videos for various things, and so I was completing 23 videos for a client, which needed to be done by the end of November. So I was feeling a little bit stressed last night, but everything got done and smoothly, and for once technology didn't let me down, which was absolutely brilliant. I've just been notified by my phone that I don't have oodles of charge, so I will have to keep an eye on that, and if I have to drop out I will charge it back up and come back in again as necessary, but I'm just letting you know that in case my phone decides to give up the ghost. So I understand how it can feel to be absolutely exhausted and shattered, because that coming on top of the launch of Yarn Academy last week left me feeling very drained. Now, what I'm going to talk about today are the four main ways that I see people, or I myself have suffered from as a cause of losing your oomph, losing your inspiration. So if I just quickly run through what those four things are, and then I will tell you about how I deal with those. So the first of those is just sheer exhaustion or overworking. There's also depression and anxiety. I suffer from anxiety horrendously. There is the meanness and rudeness from members of the public, and just drawing a blank on inspiration. Sometimes that happens to everybody. You just everything is a blank piece of paper, and you can't get beyond that. So those are the four things that I'll be discussing today, and I will put together a little blog post around this, and the live stream will be uploaded to the new YouTube channel. I'm separating out my Fiery Phoenix channel from Yarn Academy, so that all of the business related and live stream stuff that is specific for Yarn Academy will be on its own channel, so that people won't be bombarded with information they don't actually want. I'll be launching that next week, so I'll send out information if you would like to subscribe. That would be fabulous. But first of all, we're going to talk about exhaustion. Dear to my heart, as I've been awake for far more many hours than I would want to be over the last 2 weeks, either through my son being nervous or having his medication changed, or just through trying to get everything set up for the launch of Yarn Academy. For those who don't know, my son is autistic. He has Asperger's, and he struggles to sleep, which means he is awake a lot. And when he's awake and stressed, then he comes and finds me and makes sure that I'm awake and stressed. So that can always throw things for a bit of a loop, and it's an added bonus of parenting. And so sometimes I desperately need more sleep, and really do feel the exhaustion. So the main thing that I say when that happens is take a break. Just stop. It could be for 20 minutes, it could be for an hour, it could be go and have a bath. Just stop. Give yourself that actual physical, mental break. and then rethink things. So step back, have a look at your workload and decide how much time do you really have available to you to work on whatever it is you're trying to work on. If you have half an hour, don't try and do 3 hours worth of stuff in that half hour. Be realistic, and you will find that you will slowly beat the exhaustion. If you're not going to be able to give yourself a couple of days break to just completely recharge your batteries, if you have to keep going, which as parents we normally do, have to keep going. You can't just say I'm going to bed for 2 days, kids. Take care of yourself, feed yourself, get yourself to school. That doesn't happen. So on those occasions, seriously think about how much time you have available to spend on your business and how much work has to be done, and then just accept that not all the work can be done if you don't have enough time to do it. There are some articles in Yarn Academy around how to prioritise work and to look at scheduling, so I'll pop a link to those in the description once the live stream is finished. If you need some help prioritising things that are urgent and important versus not important at all, and hopefully that may help. And really it's about being realistic in your life and your day-to-day life. Everybody's life is different, so to try and expect that that what I do is the same as what my sister-in-law does, which is the same as my neighbour does, which is the same as you know, Joe Blogs down the street, it's ridiculous. We can't be doing this comparison of what, well, they get this much done. It's like, it has to be what works for you with your life, your family, and your business, and there are only so many hours in the day. So please don't drive yourself too hard, because exhaustion is terrible. Overworking yourself is terrible, and it's very hard to recover from, and you make too many easy mistakes when you are when you're exhausted. What's that, Leslie? It helps to plan around the idea that you won't get it all done. Absolutely. Scheduling overflow time, scheduling contingency is crucial. I think the suggestion that I made in the Finding Your Focus challenge was, however much time you have, halve it. And just plan for that half of the time. If you have an hour, plan to work for half an hour. If you get extra time, fabulous, you can use that up. But if you don't get that extra time because life happens, then you don't feel so guilty about it, because you have only planned to do a certain amount of work. The second thing was depression and anxiety. Over the summer holidays, I regularly suffer from depression, mainly because Brad's at home with me all the time, and it's very, very difficult. He is very, very demanding, and I get a lot of support from my family, my extended family, and my husband. But when he's with me 24/7, it's very, very, very hard. And it's very important that if you are suffering from depression or anxiety, just go and see a doctor. Go see a specialist who can actually help you. If you need to be diagnosed, get diagnosed and deal with it. So I'm not going to try and pretend that that's an easy fix. There isn't an easy fix for that. That is it's a very serious thing. And make sure that you surround yourself and connect with people where possible. If you can't do that in the real world, connect with people in your community, in your yarn community, in other communities online, finding people who will be supportive and who will listen to you and who will give you that virtual hug, and who won't be judgmental is so important. And I've found that my mental health has improved dramatically through being a part of a variety of communities online, and that really, really has helped me very much so. So yes, that is something that I think people need to be aware of. And sometimes if you are anxious and your anxiety is overwhelming, you need to withdraw. Not for too long, or else that's when depression will set in, and then you won't be able to come back to anybody. But definitely don't feel that you're on your own. And if you need to talk to somebody, please talk. I can always be reached by a private message. I can't necessarily get back to you within 5 minutes, but reach out and have a chat, because I suffer through that myself. So I would be very happy to talk to people if that's something that they just need a little chat around. It won't solve anything, but it might make you realise that you're not alone. The next of my 4 things is meanness and rudeness. Now, members of the public can be lovely on a one-to-one basis. Humans are fabulous on a one-to-one basis. get them together in a group and gang mentality sets in and they suddenly become absolutely horrendous. People can be cruel. People can be unthinkingly cruel, which I think is even worse. I remember in a previous job when I worked for myself, I actually had somebody laughing in my face when I asked them if they needed a website, which was an exceptionally rude way to respond to that question. The simple answer would be, no, thank you very much, my husband's building one. Not to laugh at me and try to make me feel small. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I have a few suggestions on ways to deal with rudeness. I'm just going to look back down to my notes. And if anybody is specifically rude or leaves a rude comment or a complaint around your product or service, then always count to 10. That's what my mum says, it's what my nan says, and actually it's very, very true. 10 might not be a high enough number. Sometimes you may need to count to 10,000, but don't instantly react is the moral of that teeny tiny story there. It's about just taking a breath, taking a moment and thinking before you just respond and go at somebody. They might be having a particularly bad day and you unfortunately are the person that is on the receiving end of that. And so I find that something else that is actually quite helpful to do is to try and imagine all of the complaints that somebody could have about my product or service and compose a response before that situation has happened, which I know sounds quite weird. Why would I want to spend time thinking about what might go wrong? I am a bit of a control freak. I do like to have everything sorted out before I start. I don't like things to be running off amok all over the place. I will spin and pivot and change and turn and all that kind of stuff. But I find that if I thought about this hasn't happened or that hasn't happened, I can compose a response, an explanation or an apology without that emotion in there. So rather than someone being incredibly rude because an email hasn't been sent out, I've got a response that can go back to somebody saying this email hasn't arrived. And it doesn't mean that it's not personalised. It just means that that emotion, that anger or frustration or fear has been taken out of the moment. So the response can go back in a more controlled fashion. So again, if you have had a situation happen in the past, have a look at how that response went. Were you happy with that response? Were you not happy with that response? Did it generate something that you were expecting or weren't expecting as a result of using it? And then tweak it maybe for the future so that it then becomes much easier to deal with customer complaints or customer queries, because you've got this stash of answers that you can go and pull out an appropriate answer when you need it. And that can just remove that whole fear or anxiety or stress or anger response, and you can just go back to your very polite, nice and factual answers and just get them out, and that can resolve all sorts of problems before sorry, there's all sorts of messages coming up on my camera right now. Before you overreact and cause a huge problem from something small. We're the same. I don't like the unexpected. It's caused me to be a habitual contingency planner. Planning it out in advance will make you more consistent too. Absolutely. Consistency, Leslie, is very, very important. It's key. If you have a consistent message, a consistent tone, a consistent face towards your customers and clients, then that is what they come to expect from you. If you are completely random, and each time that you respond to something, you're responding from an emotional place rather than from your headspace, then your message will be lost. Your communication will just be garbled and muddled. So yeah, that needs to be. I think it's worth taking the time to plan out some responses, and then it's much easier to put together a sensible response that is tailored to the person and the specific situation when needed. And again, stay factual when you are responding, and try to avoid emotional feeling. Air quotes. Emotional feeling type language. So it's all well and good to say that I feel you're this and I feel you're that, but it could come across as very patronising, and that you are in some way looking down at the person that you are trying to respond to and whose issue you're trying to resolve. So definitely factual, non-emotional language, while staying polite, is the way to go if you are dealing with customer complaints or upsets. And if you can plan ahead, then you can try and circumvent that rudeness and just stay one step removed from that. I also am very, very insistent that my Facebook groups and my Instagram groups and anywhere that I interact with a group of people on YouTube, for example, it is not the place for rudeness. It is not the place for swearing. There are places that are quite happy to deal with that. It's just that's not my space. That's not my thing. I will have group rules set up so that if people swear, if people are aggressive, then they will be booted. I won't get into a discussion about it. It's not up for discussion. If you want to be like that, go find another group to be like that in. My groups, I want them to be safe spaces. They are places that I would like to hang out. There are places that I would hope other people would like to hang out, and that means they need to be safe, and they need to not be filled with rude, aggressive folk. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I generally don't allow cruel people's comments to monopolise my mental space. Because as I say, I can go down the route of anxiety and depression. I do not allow headspace to people who are rude and who are aggressive. I don't get into arguments with them. I don't get into discussions with them. I certainly don't start huge rows with anybody as far as I know. And I will state facts and then back away. I won't state facts and then restate the facts and then restate the facts. That's it. You say it once and you move on. You can't control what other people think. You can only control the way that you react to what people say and how they behave. And then finally, out of those 4 items, the drawing a blank for inspiration is very difficult to get around if you let yourself get caught up in it, you know, where the world seems like it's a blank sheet of paper. And it could be that all you need is a rest, and that doesn't necessarily mean some sleep or putting your feet up with a cup of tea and a biscuit. It could mean that you just need a rest from that designing or creating mode for a while. So it could be that you simply need to go and make something for yourself, or make something for your family, for your kids, for your husband, for your boyfriend, for your girlfriend, for whoever. Go create something for someone you love, and don't try and change the pattern. Don't try and tweak it, or, you know, you can if it comes naturally, but don't try and do anything. Just get a pattern you like, sit down and make it, and let your brain switch off for a minute. Let your brain switch off for a couple of weeks if necessary, and by going through the process of creation, even though you're not inventing it from scratch, even though you're not defining that colourway, even though you're not experimenting with spinning weights and yarns, the fact that you've done some creative process whilst not doing the entire creation process will help get your brain back into the right mode, into the right place. I always keep several notebooks around the place with thoughts and different inspirations, colourways, yarn, photographs, possible design sketches, all sorts of things. And that way I'm not trying to keep everything in my head so much, so that if I then need to find something that is related to a fern, and I can't think of anything right now that's related to a fern, but I can go back to my notebooks and I know that I will find something that is related to a fern. Documented so many things, so we can see what happens. And I find that is quite restful. That activity is quite restful to capture those ideas, keep them there on paper, so that if I need to go back through, I can you know, if I've got a blank today, I didn't have a blank 2 months ago, and I can go back through and see, actually, yeah, that does meet what I need for now. And then I can start working on that. So that, I think, is one of the more beneficial ways of dealing with a blank page. Either switch off completely, or go back to when you didn't have a blank page, when you had those ideas, and look at some of those ideas and try and develop one of those, rather than trying to create everything from scratch now. Because I think it will be very unlikely that I could contact any of the designers in any of my Facebook groups, and if I turn around to them and said, make me an XYZ now, every single one of them would say, no, I can't do that now. Give me half an hour, give me a couple of days, give me a little bit of time, then I can come back to you with an idea, then I can come back to you with a design, then I can come back to you with a concept. So don't be too hard on yourself if you can't instantly come up with a design. Because if you start going through that loop, then everything you look at will be a blank page. It will become this huge, all-encompassing blank page that you can't get past. So I think in terms of those 4 things, those 4 specific things, they're the ways that I deal with them, and they're the techniques and methods that I find are most beneficial to get past those blocks, or to get past that burnout, or the fact that I just feel like I've got no oomph whatsoever. It's been a while since I felt that, to be fair, personally. Since I started on the yarn path, then I really haven't felt that way, which is wonderful. However, I have felt that way many, many times in my life before that. So I'm sure it will kick in, although I am trying to avoid it happening. And the ways that I've been doing that is by avoiding burnout, by planning my time, by realistically looking at how much time I have available and the tasks that I want to do, and then putting the 2 together. If you took part in the Find Your Focus challenge, you'll see that I spent a lot of time talking about that. I'll be rerunning Find Your Focus in January, so if you missed out on that last month, then we'll be able to do it again in January time, and we can go through the whole goal setting and realistically allocating time to your business, and then effectively using that time, and knowing that what you're doing is moving you towards the correct goals for your business, which I think is a massive motivator as well. Rather than I've just got this list of 8,000 things, I'm not sure what to do on it, I'll pick something out at random. Has that helped me? Has that not helped me? I've still got this massive great list, I pick something else at random. All of that stops once you start to effectively manage your time. And the other part of that is to plan in self-care and to actively take part in self-care. This week I was so happy. I've ordered up 2 colorways of yarn. One I've had custom made. Thank you so much, Petra. And the other one is going to be made into a brioche scarf for my husband for Christmas. And I can say that because he hasn't got a clue what that means. He doesn't have a Scooby, even though he's seen me knitting brioche and I have told him what it is. He hasn't got a clue. So there we go. Even if he sees the video, he won't know what I'm talking about. He'll know there's a scarf, but that's it. And I find that's very relaxing to just, I've treated myself to some amazing yarn. I have got some fabulous things coming for Christmas. I have asked for very yarny based gifts this Christmas, and I'm going to be very, very excited to receive them. I have treated myself when we went up to London to a beautiful it's a bone china candle holder thing. I'll put a picture up on Instagram so you can see it. And we have a candle advent calendar this year, so every day we have a different candle, a different scented candle to burn, and so that is going to look beautiful, and it will be wonderful within this candle burner. So when it gets dark tonight, I will take a photo and share that with you all, because it's stunning. So it's just these little things that are for me. They're all for me, and they are relaxing, and self-care is crucial. Every Sunday we have a fun day and we list off what we can do for self-care, and the majority of comments that I see are, I don't have time for self-care, oh I really need this, oh I should be doing this, I don't know how to fit it in. Make the time, do some self-care, do something, anything. It doesn't have to be massive, it doesn't have to be a weekend away at a spa. It could be a 20-minute soak in the bath. As long as there's something that is for you, that will relax you and that you will enjoy, that is the definition of self-care. So if you mix together your self-care with your planning, then you should be golden. And pop your comments and thoughts down underneath the video, and I will see you next week. So have a good weekend, and I'll see you later. Bye.